Good morning, Twitch. It's your friend Matt Groves back with another episode of Live Coding. Once again, I seem to have camera issues. I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know, maybe I need to reboot or something. I don't remember what I did last time to get it to start working. But the camera seems to be working fine. I brought up just the camera app, and that showed my camera feed. And of course, I've been using Zoom and everything like that. So I don't know what's going on here. Something with, no, that's not it. I'm just futzing around with Streamlabs right now. Something going on with Streamlabs. I don't know. Add a new source. Yeah, okay. Let's try adding a new source, I guess. I mean, it doesn't seem to be showing up. This is what I'm seeing right now. This is my webcam that I selected. I'm just seeing a black screen there. Just seeing nothing. So I don't know what the problem is there. So sorry about that. I don't really understand. Like if I bring up the camera app, what's going to happen? Yeah, it's probably not going to work because I'm guessing Streamlabs has a hold of it, some sort of handle on it. Oh boy, that is really obnoxious. That won't show up there. So anyone knows what I'm doing wrong, drop me a line. But I think I might just try a reboot later today. See if that breaks something loose. I don't know. So sorry about that. I'm not. You don't get to see me. Let's try this again. I just deleted that source. Try deactivating it, closing all applications. Might be trying to use it, then reactivate it. Yeah, I don't know whether applications would be trying to use it. I don't have, like I have File Explorer, PowerShell, Visual Studio. I've got this sound. Maybe, I don't know, that would do anything. Got Notepad. I got services open. Streamlabs, Chrome. Chrome, I guess, potentially could have it, but nothing. And I've got my Twitch bot opening up. By the way, hey Calvin, thanks for stopping in. Good to see you. Let's just try. I closed Chrome. Let's see if we can add a source here. And as you can see, nothing showing up still. Let's try deactivating it. You're adding a new source. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess so. Because, well, I thought it might be Chroma Cam is the issue. So if I activate Chroma Cam, I just get this X through the camera icon. I don't know what that's all about, which maybe you can't see on the screen because the X itself is taking up a lot of that screen. Do you have an existing source already using it? I mean, maybe. Can we bring up like the list of the sources, potentially? List all the sources? Yeah, he says yes. So, okay. How do I do that? Video sources. Add a new one. Then choose the cam option. Then at the bottom it lists them. Okay. So add a new one. Then choose the cam option, which is video capture devices. Okay. And add source. And so here they are. So I can't really oh, hey, look at that. Live cam. Why is it called live cam? I mean, that's better than nothing, I guess. But I'm confused why it's called live cam. Okay, there we go. They've updated the UI with the toggle. Yeah, I noticed there was an update today. Well, there I am. Hopefully you can see me on the screen now. Okay, excellent. Well, I'm sporting my C# shirt today, which is a really old shirt. I don't know if you can see this here. This is a shirt I got from from Xamarin way back in the day when Xamarin was its own company. They weren't yet acquired by Microsoft. But after they had kind of spun off of Attachmate and that whole deal. They had this like kind of a contest sort of thing, promotional deal where you basically implement a sample app. You'd start with their starter kit, and you would go through the steps to compile it and run it, and so on. And then if you did that successfully, they'd send you a shirt. And it also turns out there was a secret in there as well. You could, if you were paying close enough attention, which I wasn't, you could actually get a stuffed plushy monkey as well, which I didn't get. But I only bring this up because I was just at the Xamarin Dev Summit. This is the first year for Xamarin Dev Summit this year in Houston. Great conference. Trying to sort of fill in where Xamarin Evolve used to be, because Microsoft hasn't put on a Xamarin Evolve yet. But I didn't bring the shirt. I feel like I would have gotten so much more cred if I had worn this shirt there, but I forgot to bring it. Not that I deserve any cred. I've been out of the mobile game for a long time. So, I was back in the Mono Droid betas and the Mono 4 Android, and kind of lost interest after that and didn't really have a reason to be in it anymore. So fortunately, there's a teammate of mine, Rob Hedgepeth, who is amazing with this kind of stuff. In fact, if you remind me later, I'm going to show you this nifty little demo he just sort of threw together over the weekend with Xamarin and Couchbase. Anyway, here we are. We're going to talk about some EFCore today. So we've got some more issues, pull request stuff, comments to go through. If you remember one of the previous episodes, we looked through some of those pull requests and issues from Brant Burnett. And he submitted a lot of stuff, and I just kind of asked for some clarification on those. And so I haven't looked at his comments yet. I assume he's done some clarification. It's kind of like, Brant is just this really, he's an amazing developer, architect, and he's like way up here at this level. And so I'm trying to, I'm down here at this level. I only go this, I would go lower, but then you wouldn't see on the camera here. So I'm trying to understand, him up here. He's at Mount Olympus, and I'm down here, in the dirt, trying to figure out what he's doing. So we'll go through that and see if he's left any more comments for us. You need better nerd shirts, huh, Calvin? Well, look, I don't know. I guess I've accumulated a pretty good collection of nerd shirts because I go to so many conferences, and they practically, even if you don't want a shirt, you still end up leaving with a shirt. So I have to be careful about the shirts, because otherwise I'm just going to have this huge pile of T-shirts that I'm not going to wear, and they're probably too big for normal humans to wear. So I can't exactly take them to the thrift store either. I guess I could, but who's going to want those? So I try not to be wasteful about it, but I usually end up collecting 2 or 3 shirts just if you go to a conference, it's kind of like a T-shirt magnet. So, but you're welcome to any of my shirts, Calvin, of course, or if you want me to grab you some at the next conference I go to, I'd be happy to do that. I got some really interesting shirts at KCDC, which is what I wanted to talk about a little bit today as well. KCDC give their speakers, for at least the last 2 years anyway, some really interesting customized shirts. It's very cool what they're doing for speakers. But that's not what I want to talk about with KCDC. I was a Couchbase sponsor KCDC, and I was there working the Couchbase booth, and we tried something a little new for Couchbase there. We called it the Scavenger Hunt. I think that's probably not a good name after having done it at an event. But I think it went really well, and we learned a lot about how we might improve it for the next event. So we might look at that today, just to kind of show you how that works. All right, for those of you who have not been here before, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So anything you see on the screen, anything that pops into your mind about technology, programming, or anything else that might come up, as long as it's not profane, I'm happy to help try to answer that question, or at least point you to someone who could maybe help answer the question. So please ask away in the chat room, what have you. Something's not going right here, because Calvin, you're chatting, and usually those would show up here in this Twitch bot. it would be writing out, Calvin just said a message, Calvin just said a message. So that's the next thing. Well, we'll get to that. Team Live Coders. Let's give a quick promotion. If I can open up a web browser, which I just closed. I'm part of a Twitch team called Live Coders. And it's a team of people who do live coding here on Twitch. So you can see right now we've got Pixelogic Dev, who's got 39 viewers right now. And you can see the rest of the people on the team who are not streaming. It's just me and Pixelogic Dev right now. But if you go check out this team, check out these people. They're always streaming about code, technology, building stuff. And it's a wide variety of interesting things going on. So check out this. So like Dev Chatter, he's working on a Final Fantasy VII, like chatbot interaction thing. It's pretty darn cool. Michael Jolly's always doing something fun. He plays the guitar every once in a while. The Michael Jolly. You got a bunch of other people, Codebase Alpha, who's hung out in this channel here before. Very cool. Robert Tables, notorious Robert Tables, Steve Smith. And I think sort of the team leader, Ed Charbonneau, of course, but the team leader, C# Fritz, he's sort of the guy who's kind of kicked this off, and definitely check out his channel. So later today, after we're done, we might do a raid on one of these channels. The raids haven't been going that well, technical issues lately, so maybe one in every 2 raids recently has actually worked, but we'll try it again. What about Pixelogic you're working on a mobile app. That's interesting. Okay. What else? Awesome Developers streaming list. So I haven't streamed in a while. I feel like it's important for me to promote these things. But this is basically, it's a GitHub repo with a text file, and it's a list that people can add themselves to that are people that are streaming. So not just Twitch. It could be YouTube or Facebook or I don't know, whatever else, Mixer, all those other different streaming channels. But these are people that are all doing developer streams. I like to do a quick search to see who's streaming about databases and backends and stuff, because that's what I'm really into, databases. Couchbase, of course, NoSQL, SQL++, .NET, C# backend stuff, you know? And I do some other stuff, soldering and podcasting and VR from time to time. Although my podcasting game has really kind of dried up. I've gotten super busy. Not an excuse, but I need to pick that back up. So we'll see if anyone new has been added. We see Rachel Tapman all the time, Shirley Wu, Ted Young, and Go Maestro Go, and Jack Mott. So no one new on this list who's doing any stuff with data. Calvin's planning a comeback too for the podcast. That's terrific, Calvin. You know, if you just want a new co-host, if that's the problem, I'm happy to step aside. But also, I'm happy to do it with you as well. It's a lot of fun to do .NET Bytes, but it is kind of a busy time of year. Life seriously gets in the way sometimes, makes it so hard. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. You know, being a DA, there's periods of the year where it's like, okay, it's like December or January, and no, I want you. All right, that's cool. Happy to do it, man. But there's periods in the year where it's kind of a lull. Like December is kind of like, there's not a lot of events going on because it's the holidays and things like that. So there's not a lot of travel happening. Uncle Sam, yeah, absolutely. I want you for .NET Bytes. But then there's periods of the year, like just this last month, where it's like conference, back to back. So I was just at KCDC last week. Great conference. Kept me super busy because I went to like all the evening parties, and I volunteered at the KCDC Kids event. What was that? Kansas City Kids Conference? I don't remember what it's called, which is really cool. I did like the booth there and all kinds of stuff. So I was super busy for KCDC. The week before that was Xamarin Developer Summit, as I mentioned. This week, it's not as bad. It's just Cincy Deliver this Friday. I think tickets are still available if you want to check it out. If you're in the Cincinnati area or nearby, I'll also be there but it's one day, so that's not too bad. The next week, of course, is the JavaScript and Friends Conference, which is also not too bad. It's one day, even less travel than Cincinnati because it's in the same city as me. So That's not too bad at all. But it's just back to back to back to back. And, it's not just the day of the conference. There's also preparation of slides and practicing and all that kind of stuff. Logistics, debriefs, which I still haven't done for KCDC. I need to get on that. We talk about how the event went internally and things we did well, things we can improve on, stuff like that, like a retrospective, if you will. So all those stuff goes around the conference. It's not just what you see at the event. It's not just the speaking time. It's not just the booth, but it's a lot of other stuff that goes into it. So those can seriously get in the way. Not to mention, I do have a family, and my kids are doing sports and music and all kinds of stuff. And for some reason, my wife wants me to pay attention to her every once in a while. So I got to do that as well. So yes, life gets in the way, absolutely. And so the podcast has suffered, but I feel like that's okay. It's not, unlike .NET Bytes, the Cross-Cutting Concerns podcast does not have a massive listenership. The .NET Bytes took off hockey stick style listenership. I don't feel like a lot of people are really clamoring for it. But I actually did talk to some people at KCDC who are podcast listeners. Yeah, those women and the need for affection. I know, right? And the family too. How's it going, Surly Dev? Good to see you. All right, so let's get on with it. Yes, absolutely, lots of stuff. Groves Tube. Everything I post to Twitch gets saved on Twitch for some period of time. It makes me wonder how many of the streamers on here are still married. I feel like I keep my streaming to a pretty low level, but there are some streamers who are like, I don't know if many of them are on the Live Coders team, but Twitch certainly there are streamers who are just constantly, and if you want to get to partner level, you really gotta put in a lot of time. Yeah, I do it during the workday mostly. Sometimes I'll do some streams in the evening, more fun streams. I did some Fortnite stuff with my kids. So I kind of try to kill two birds there, spend time with the kids and do streaming at the same time. Anyway, if you want to see that Fortnite stream, it's called Old Man Plays Fortnite, or you want to see any of my previous actual coding streams, they're all on Twitch, of course, for some period of time, like 30 days or whatever. But I also export them to YouTube, and you can find that by going to bit.ly/GrovesTube and check out those videos there. Subscribe, leave a comment, smash that like button, all those things that the people say. TwitchBot, it is running, and there's no exceptions, but it doesn't seem to be storing messages. So we've got a bunch coming in from Calvin and a few from Surly Dev, and usually those would spit out a line here to the console. So we may have to investigate that to see what's going on. All right. Boo, yeah, I know, Surly Dev. I know you really wanted to get up on that leaderboard. Yeah, nothing's happening there. I don't know. Maybe it's storing it. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I commented out that line by mistake, but I don't think I've messed with that code in a while. The only thing I have messed with is I moved. Right now it's writing Couchbase. Couchbase is running in Docker. Is it storing but not echoing to a screen? It's possible. We could check at that. We'll get to it. Actually, we want to get to that first. EFCore. So I want to eventually get to this. Brant Burnett has put in some work on the EFCore provider we're working on. So I haven't actually taken a peek at that since the last stream. So we're going to look at those live on the channel. That may involve merging a pull request or writing more comments, or who knows what it's going to involve. But we'll get to that. And I also want to show, so let's see, I got to know if all this typing helps me regain my lead or whether I should do some work. Yeah, so Surly Dev's referring to, I store all the chat messages in Couchbase. And in the past, I've run a query to see who's the chattiest. Not that there's any prize for it. There's really nothing you get for being the chattiest. But Surly Dev was the leader at one point. I'm pretty sure Calvin has blown you way away, Surly Dev. So you'd have to start doing some serious spamming. As far as Surliest, we could, if we wanted to, at some point we could put in some a sentiment analysis. I don't know if surly is an emotion that sentiment analysis looks for, but we could certainly look for negative sentiment and see who is the most negative chatter. Again, not something you should probably strive for, but we could certainly do that. So, but yeah, basically I'm just storing data, or in this case, not storing data, because it doesn't seem to be working. But I'm not sure what we're going to do with it. We're just in data collection mode right now. Maybe we can do some machine learning, or some Markov chains, or who knows what we can do with this data. Run some interesting queries on it. We don't know. Yeah, it's just in data collection mode. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So why don't we look at this chatbot first? Let's just, oh, wait. It did something. I pressed enter and it said logged a message from Calvin Allen. That's weird. So I had Scavenger Hunt, but let's open up the chatbot here. Actually, let's just run it again. Maybe it was stuck or something. I don't know. What'd you do? Couldn't hear for the bus outside. I just pressed enter. Like it was stuck or something. Okay, seems to be working fine now. I don't know. That was weird. I see my name. Yep, there you are, Surly Dev. Let's get a little zoom it going. There we go. So, to regain your lead. Yeah, I don't want to encourage spam. That's why there's really nothing you get for being the lead. But we can actually bring up the data just to show you how far back you are from the lead. So I was running a internal build of Couchbase server, and I switched over to 6.0.2, running in Docker. That's the latest public release of Enterprise Edition. So I've moved the data over there. 731 total messages in there right now. Let's create a primary index on the Twitch chat. Oh, it's getting pretty big. The primary index is probably not going to be very effective much longer. That's a lot of data to query, but let's just see. If we look at Twitch chat, yeah, the data in there is completely uniform, so 100% of it looks like this, but we can say display name, select t.displayname, and count as total chats from Twitch chat, and we'll alias that as t, group by t.displayname, and order by count descending. So if we run that, it's still pretty quick. Yeah, Calvin Allen is there at first place, 275. We'll put this in table format for a little easier viewing. This is very flat data. Coral there, 116. Brandonius actually has passed you, Surly Dev, at 50. Yeah, you're in fourth place, buddy. Really low down the list there, but at least you're higher up than some of these one-offs here. Yeah, you haven't actually been in here, stopped in for a while. It seems like. You say 3 weeks, but I've skipped a few streams because of the events that I was talking about. So you've probably missed a handful of episodes. You've certainly missed most of you have missed my ridiculous Fortnite streams. So if you want to watch someone flail around at Fortnite and get owned by their own children, well, you can tune into that. We'll do one later. Serious catching up to do. Well, Surly Dev, if you want to catch up, you can go to bit.ly/GrovesTube and look at the YouTube archive. And I've also put some highlight clips in there. So if you want to just view highlight clips, you don't get Fortnite. I am not a fan of those type of games. I'm really bad at them. I don't find them, totally entertaining. My kids are way into them, way into Fortnite specifically, and you get travel sick watching them. Travel sick, is that like a British expression or UK expression? I'm guessing you mean like car sick or motion sick, that sort of thing. Travel sick. Anyway, yeah, I don't get any sort of nausea playing the games, but I'm so bad at them. Duke Nukem gets me in less than 2 minutes if I play that. Like Duke Nukem 3D, way back then. Hey, John Calloway, thanks for dropping in. My kid picked up the dancing. I don't know how. Nobody in our house plays Fortnite. You know what it is, John, is that Fortnite is the Fortnite emotes, as they call them, the dances. Nope, just the 2D Duke Nukem? Get you motion sick? Okay. The YouTubes, yeah, definitely the YouTubes. And if you go to like a sporting event, you go to like a baseball game, it's unbelievable. Like everybody does the floss or all the other Fortnite dances. And they get on the camera, right? Because they have like dance cam between innings and things like this. So it's pervasive. Absolutely. Thanks for stopping in, John Calloway. Let's see where you are on the list here. Last time around this query, let's see. You are down here, and you have 8. Like Japanese knotweed. I assume that's some sort of kudzu or ground ivy that kind of spreads and chokes out everything else. So you're on the leaderboard, John Calloway. But again, I want to... Sorry, John Galloway is actually one of the .NET Foundation guys, so you're very close in name. There's nothing you get for being at the top of this list. You get absolutely nothing. He spells his name wrong. So there's nothing at all that you get. I think Calvin has mod, and so does Coral, but that's not because they're the chattiest. So you don't get anything from being at the top of the list. It's a plant that if you have it anywhere near a property you are thinking of buying, then the bank will refuse to grant a mortgage. Interesting. So it like destroys everything around it? I mean, not just, I imagine it destroys your grass and your plants, but it destroys your house too. I'll look into that later. We're getting way off track here. The Twitch bot's working. I don't know why it wasn't working, but it's working now. So we're all good there. So let's go on to the next thing. Let's look at some EFCore stuff. This is in my repo, mgroves. It is not official anything just yet. It doesn't officially work. It's not officially supported by Couchbase. It's not even in Couchbase Labs yet. It's not even on the periphery of the periphery. This is, let's see. Oh, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Large species of herbaceous perennial plants of the knotweed and buckwheat family. Another word I can't pronounce. Commonly known as Asian knotweed or Japanese knotweed. Native to East Asia in Japan, China, and Korea. Alrighty. This has been Botany Talk with Matt Groves, also known as American bamboo. Okay. All right. I feel like as an American, I should be offended by that, but I'm not. Okay. So we're looking at, if you remember back, we created a couple of project boards here in GitHub. And one of them is for low-hanging fruit. This is the, quote, easy stuff. It is one of the world's worst invasive species. Yes, so I think it is an apt metaphor to say that the emotes in Fortnite are like Japanese or Asian knotweed. But they will eventually go away, I hope, right? Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, we had 2 boards. It can damage buildings, flood defenses, roads. Oh my. Yes. So this has been Plant Talk with Surly Dev. Tune in to Surly Dev's channel if you want to learn more about invasive plant species. But speaking of plants, we've got a board here called Low Hanging Fruit. If you look actually at my backyard right now, I've got a buckeye tree, and it is very low hanging right now. I'm practically touching the ground. You could take one of those ripe buckeyes right off. If you want buckeyes, by the way, come to my house. You can have all the buckeyes you can pick, but before the squirrels get to them. Anyway, this is the board of tasks that are relatively simple. I don't want to say simple as in easy, but relatively limited in scope, small, hopefully small. If not, they need to be broken up. Next level procrastination coming soon. And the other channel, or the other board I've got, is called Link, where the idea here is that it is a huge amount of work to get a link provider going. So this is, I don't know enough about it to even start planning it, but a board on there to kind of help keep track of that stuff that's going on. So let me bring up my email just to get an idea, because I get notifications every time someone submits a pull request or leaves a comment on that repo. So I want to kind of go in order here. So let's look at this one here. So create bucket if missing in create database if not exists. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I remember this. Okay, so I do not expect the test to pass. I'll implement the create bucket logic, not the collection stuff. Additionally, it appears you can only run either the sync or the async tests at once. If you run both, they interfere with each other. I'm assuming MS has some way to filter those runs. Haven't figured it all out yet. Okay, interesting. Brent was asking the Gitter chat if you had reviewed any of these. Oh, you know what? I haven't actually hung in the Gitter channel in a while, but I have not reviewed them. So if you're in there right now, you can tell him that we're reviewing them right now. But basically, he had submitted some code here. So I had a placeholder, but he submitted some code to actually create a bucket if it doesn't exist. This is, I wouldn't expect this code to be called very often, but it's going to be useful, I think, for certain types of tasks. I told him I didn't think you had because of the streaming lull with conferences. Yep, that's exactly right. Thank you, Calvin. I appreciate that. There is a Gitter channel, by the way, for any repo, right, on GitHub. But there's one for the Couchbase.net stuff, or Android Entity Framework stuff. So if you're interested in that, you can go there, hang out there. Brant's almost always hanging out in there, chatting up something. Jeff Morris is often there, too. Well, I think Jeff might be out this week. So he did a lot of stuff here, and it looks like some formatting things, too, which is okay. Couchbase, database creator. So yeah, I think everything, I mean, some of those tests did pass, so I'm going to go ahead and merge this one in, if I remember correctly. Hopefully, everything looked okay. Thanks, Brands. Whoops, not that. Whoever that is. Thanks, Brant Burnett. Looks good. And we'll go ahead and leave a comment. Give him a thumbs up. As I said in the past, if you ever have a chance to just give a quick thumbs up or give an upvote on Stack Overflow or Reddit or Hacker News or wherever you go with upvotes, it's always nice to just drop in a thumbs up there. It's just a quick little thing you can do, and when people get thumbs up, when people get upvoted, it's encouraging. The internet is a very discouraging place sometimes. You put yourself out there, and you hear crickets back. It's always good to, at very least, just hit an upvote on whatever you can. Surly Dev has a question about NoSQL database if you want to have a go at it. I think that Couchbase might be good for it, but not entirely sure yet. Yes, Surly Dev, please go ahead. Ask away. I would love to do what I can to help you. In the meantime, while you're typing that up, I'm going to take a look at the next one. I'm going to archive this email. This is one I definitely wanted to know about, the dot notation that he added for object key access. So let's see. Cosmos DB code is copied using JavaScript indexer notation to access object attributes, while Nickel uses dot notation. This PR changes how that part of the query is rendered, though we'll probably also want to come back and add backtick escaping to help deal with things like dashes in attribute names in a subsequent pull request. Okay, that makes sense to me. So Cosmos DB code. So if we look at what he changed, it wasn't huge, but this is something to do with query, and it uses. So let me just bring up Notepad here to kind of show you what's going on. So according to Brant, Cosmos, which by the way I copied and pasted almost everything here in this repo from the Cosmos DB provider because it's pretty close to Couchbase. They're both document databases. They both have a SQL query language. Couchbase is going to be way more complicated to implement than Cosmos. But I'm guessing what Brant is saying here is you have so if you're looking at a Cosmos document, let's just say we'll look at one piece of JSON here, like this. And that can exist in both Cosmos and Couchbase. So what he's saying is that well, maybe let's do this. I think maybe this is what he's getting at. If it's more complicated. Foo bar and baz, right? So we have a nested object there. So in Cosmos, he's saying you would access bar by saying foo bar, right? And this is going to be equal to baz. That's the value. But in Couchbase, when you're running a query, and I actually didn't know this about Cosmos query. I thought you could use dot notation, but maybe you could also use bracket notation. But in Couchbase, you would say foo.bar equals baz. So that's what he's saying there, and I kind of assumed it was something like that, but I just wanted to make sure I had some clear, because he didn't provide any notes here. The other thing he says, we'll probably also want to come back and add backtick escaping to help deal with things like dashes and attribute names. That is true as well. So in Couchbase, if you have a bucket name of travel sample with a dash in it, or a field name of like foobar, then okay, Surly, thank you for the question. We'll get to it in just a second here. But in like a SQL database, you would say like put in brackets travel sample, right? Because that dash is a special symbol. It's like a math symbol, right? In Oracle or other languages, you would say quote travel sample. In Couchbase, you use backtick travel sample to escape it. So that's something that I don't know if, I'm pretty sure Cosmos does not use backticks. That's something we'll have to do as well. So what that means is that this probably, we should create a separate ticket for this. So we're going to merge this and close it out, and then we'll create another ticket for this particular issue here, which makes sense. Okay, Surly Dev. I am firmly a SQL Server guy, and any APIs that I have called, I have parsed the JSON and stored in SQL Server. However, I'm working on a credit limit / insurance system at work, and I get back a massive blob of data. So creating a DTO class or classes to parse it into would be really intensive, I think. I'm thinking that I could store the blobs in Couchbase and still do sums, compares, grouping without having to parse out all the paths and hierarchy of data, right? Okay. So yes, I think is the short answer. I just want to make sure I understand this. So you've parsed the JSON data and stored it in SQL Server. So when you say you parse the JSON data and store it in SQL Server, does that mean that you are running it through some sort of ORM? You're taking the JSON and splitting it up into pieces, and then you're saving that into multiple different tables in SQL Server. So just as an example, this is one I always go to, is I have a shopping cart, and so it has like a user is M Groves, and timestamp is whatever 2019 0723, etc. And then I have items, which is itself an array inside here. So the first item might be quantity, if I can spell it, quantity 5, and price $9.99. And would that put another one in there just for funsies? Quantity 1 and price $8.99. So, okay. Oh, you got an example of JSON you get back. Yeah. So I could just click on a link here and take a look. The data you get back. Okay. So this is the data you get back. So are you parsing all of this into C# objects? So for instance, you would have like whatever this root object is called, an order, I guess, and you would have then a report object. So just this is some really complex JSON, absolutely. But simple, this is OGs, no, okay. Okay, so you're just storing this JSON directly into a SQL field or something like that? I'm just kind of curious about what you're doing right now with SQL Server. If you're putting in like an nvarchar field or something like that, so you're just storing the raw JSON in SQL. Initially, I want to store credit limits, performance values for comparison every few months. Okay. Just kind of curious. I mean, if it's like, SQL and Postgres, for instance, have some JSON capability, right? So you could have a table called order where it has like an ID field and maybe some, timestamp field, but then it has like big JSON blob field, right? So this is like 1, this is like 2019, 07, 23, and this one is like, et cetera, et cetera. This is a huge blob there. At the moment, yes, I just have a varchar max field and drop it in there, and then parse out half a dozen values from various paths. Okay, so you drop it in here, and then maybe you then take that JSON in your code and you maybe parse out, like you say half a dozen various paths. So maybe you're parsing out like user ID from the root there, which in this case would be, let me zoom this down a little bit, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to parse out like the reports language, which is EN, and you're going to maybe parse something really deep like, I don't know, credit score, current credit rating, common value, and you're going through the JSON in your code or something, and you parse out C. At the moment, nothing, but I want to write out the, so Calvin's question was, what do you do with those half a dozen values? Calculations, caching a rollup, some value? At the moment, nothing, but I want to write out, certainly, I want to write out into the counting system. I'm more likely to want to show a trend of the values, example, credit limits going up or down. So this is kind of what I'm getting at, is you have this big blob somewhere here, and it has all these values back there. Right now, you're only interested in maybe half a dozen of those values, so you parse them into their own fields like this. So you want to compare the credit limit now to, say, 3 months ago. Right, so you're parsing out this field, and your credit limit is 5, maybe we'll get the credit, yeah, so let's just credit score, current credit rating, and then credit, I'm just sort of going down the tree here, value, and it's $50,000, right? So their credit limit right now is $50,000. And so later down the road, and maybe you'll put a, yeah, we have a user ID on here. So later down the road, like, I don't know, a month from now, you'd say 2019, 08, 23. This, another copy of that JSON blob, also, same user, the same language as before. Maybe now the credit rating went up to $55,000. I'm not myself. Good morning. What are we working on today? So I was working on some entity framework stuff, and we already took a look at one of those issues. But now we've got sidetracked, which is not a bad thing. There are no stupid questions to ask here. Surly Dev is interested in how Couchbase could help with his use case here with credit ratings and stuff. So that's what we're seeing in the background. This is some JSON that Surly has shared with us. Yes, and he's also working on getting his chat count up. So is this kind of what you're going for here? You're basically parsing out this big JSON blob. Maybe you're not storing the JSON blob, but you're parsing it out and putting this data into these individual columns, and you're just trying to, and you're eventually going to look at trends, things like that. Is that kind of what you're doing? Okay. All right. So, so Couchbase might be able to help you here, I think, because what you could do, oh, you are saving the JSON blob each time you receive one. So you are saving this blob here that's right, you said it was a varchar max field. Varchar max. Okay. So I work for Couchbase, so of course I want to say yes. But I also want to, I don't want to be like, Couchbase is always the answer to everything. So if you're using SQL Server, depending on which version you're using, SQL Server has some JSON. Calvin says he doesn't work for Couchbase, but still, yes. So SQL Server, Postgres, they have some JSON tools. 2017, is there a SQL Server 2017? I thought it was 2016 or 2018. Anyway, you could be right. I don't know. I've been out of the SQL Server game for a few years. But anyway, there are some JSON functions in there you can use to parse JSON and look at specific JSON fields so that, for instance, you wouldn't have to do this parsing in your own code. You could do that right there in the query. So you could like select, JSON value of, my big JSON blob, and then provide some sort of path. Okay, it is 2017. All right, fair enough. And the path would be, I think it's, I don't know the exact syntax, but something like credit score dot current credit rating dot credit limit, and then dot I can't type. Dot value, something like that. Something like that. I don't know the exact syntax. Yeah, it's kind of like XPath, but for JSON. Exactly, Calvin, from your table, where user ID equals 1, 2, 3, something like that. So that is a possibility, and Postgres has similar capabilities. I've not used those. myself, but from what I understand, they're a little farther along than like SQL Server and MySQL in terms of the JSON parsing. So this might work for you. So you could at least avoid having to do that JSON parsing in your code, and you could leave it to the database. So you'd only have to store this big blob. So going down in the future, if you wanted to say, oh, well, I need to analyze another field on there, you wouldn't have to go back through all of them and reparse them. You could just, put in a different path here, JSON XPath, let's call it. So that's a possibility. The trick with that is how much data are you storing? Because this may not be the most efficient function in terms of accessing data within JSON blobs, and the index capabilities are going to be most likely somewhat limited. Now, I am far from an expert on these. JSONpath.com. Is that what SQL Server is using? An online playground kind of thing. Yeah, so this is kind of like you can make your own XPath. Yeah, this $sign seems familiar. I don't know if this is used by Postgres or SQL Server or both, or neither. But yeah, so the question there is basically, I'd be concerned about how, can you get to the expression? Can you get to it with this expression? How much work is that to do? What's the indexing performance like? How much data are you actually storing? If we're only talking a few hundred records, maybe, this is probably going to be fine. But if you're talking, this is a very large piece of data here, and so you would basically, I don't know what the indexing capabilities are of JSON in SQL Server, but this is a lot of data to parse through. So if there's no indexing available, then chances are SQL Server has to parse this JSON and then parse your expression for every single row of your data. An FYI, by the way, one of my team members, Dennis Rosa, he's already written, he's in review right now, basically, a blog post comparing JSON capabilities of Postgres with a NoSQL database like Couchbase to kind of get an idea of the limitations and the trade-offs inherent there. And Postgres, indexing capabilities are pretty, they're pretty slim right now with Postgres. So for simple cases, JSON is going to be fine with Postgres. But for more complex stuff, a NoSQL database is still going to have the advantage. Because in Couchbase, for instance, I could just dump this JSON right into a Couchbase document, like we've done with the Twitch chat data. So if you look at Twitch chat data, you can see that I've just taken the JSON that Twitch gives me and thrown it all in here, just as it is. And then I can individually index, if I wanted to index this field, or I want to index something even more complicated like color is system color, or I can index arrays, all those sorts of things. And then my queries can be very efficient when it comes to indexing, and I can do some really complex stuff with that. And then if you're just doing analysis on this, there's another tool in Couchbase called Analytics, which actually makes it even easier. You don't even have to worry about writing indexes. It's going to be relatively efficient as it is. Now you can write indexes, but it's going to be pretty efficient out of the box without indexes. And this is actually something that the Cincinnati Reds, which if you're not familiar, being from outside the country, that's a baseball team, a sports team here in the United States, here in Ohio actually. They're actually using analytics to do analysis on their data. And you can read more about that on Couchbase.com and whatnot. But so if I were you, I'd give it a try. Just see if you like it. See if it's helpful to you. It's Couchbase.com/downloads. Yeah, and thank you very much for the help there, Calvin. I appreciate you jumping in. I'll give you $20 later, like we agreed, for shilling for me. But if you go here, you go to Couchbase.com/downloads. If you want to just try the basic query stuff I talked about, you can get the Community Edition, which is totally free for production. But if you want to try the analytics and some of the more advanced features, it's also a totally free download, Enterprise. Just Couchbase.com/downloads. This will give you all the features, totally free to run locally, run on anywhere up to production. When you get to production, you're going to need a license for this. But anywhere up until then, you can run totally for free. There's no time limits. You get the full set of features. It's also available on Docker. So just want to fire up a quick Docker image, which is what I've done. Over here, you can do that as well. So that makes it easy to try it out. And if you run into some problems getting that data in there, actually you could just do it with C# like I'm doing with the Twitch chat app, or you could import it from like a JSON file. I don't know if you're getting this from REST endpoint or whatnot. It's probably easier to do in an application. But there's also some command line tools to import your JSON. So if you wanted to, for instance, export from SQL Server to a text file somewhere and then import it from that text file, you could absolutely do that with command line tools as well. So that being said, give it a shot. Let me know what you think. Come on back the next time and let us know how it went. And maybe you can even show something off in your own stream going through this process. Although, you know, you've put some financial data out here. Hopefully this is fake data. You're putting some fake data out here. Because this looks like, you know, credit information, which is kind of sensitive. But if you can do that, it won't be any time in the next 3 weeks. Okay. But I'll have a go. Yeah, that'd be fine. So well, what's happening here? It's real, but, whoa, what's happening? But not the company I work for. This is like a real-time sharing thing. Interesting. That's cool. All right. So anyway, that's really interesting. Surely Dev, have a go at that. I'll also mention that you know, I don't want this to turn into like a sales thing, but if you look at Couchbase, we have a customers page, and we have some. If I can find it, we have some customers that are doing financial use cases. These are the ones that we can share publicly. So like Wells Fargo is doing some fraud monitoring stuff. FICO is being used, and they do lots of credit reporting type of things. So these are all companies that are doing some stuff that's similar to what you're doing, and so yeah, you're in the right ballpark, is what I'm saying. It's definitely worth checking out. See how it goes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and merge this pull request from branch. We're going back to the entity framework stuff now. We're really switching gears quite a lot today, but that's totally cool. As I've said at the beginning of every stream, the only stupid question is the one you do not ask. So jump in with questions any old time. Happy to go off on tangents with you on anything, you know, generally database or backend related, but anything else, we can talk about it. It's totally cool. Okay, so looks good. Brant, thank you. I will create a GitHub issue for the backtick escaping that you mentioned. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this text here. We're going to go back to our projects page, and this will be a link. This is link related. The backticks stuff, I think it's just link related. Backtick escaping. So we'll add that one, and we'll go in here. What is with? Oh, it's just a note. I don't want it to be a note. I want to be a backtick escaping. I'm still kind of new with this Couchbase or this GitHub project stuff. Convert to issue. That's what I want. Okay. Add backtick escaping to help deal with things like dashes and attribute names in a subsequent pull request. I'm going to say attribute names and bucket names in a subsequent pull request. You can use GitKraken and use a glow board connected to your GitHub issues. Calvin's really hitting the GitKraken stuff hard these days. So okay, so that's an interesting thing. I never tried with GitKraken because I didn't really know that GitHub projects really existed until like a few weeks ago. So you're saying GitKraken can kind of sync up with the GitHub project stuffs. Thanks for your help, guys. I'll have read upon Couchbase and give it a go. If I get stuck, I know where to come. Absolutely. Surly Dev, you can reach me here on Twitch, of course, but you can also find me on Twitter at mgroves. I'll just paste that in the chat here. Twitter on mgroves, or mgroves on Twitter. You can reach me there. Of course, my email address, I don't know if you have it or not, but you can certainly DM me on Twitter if it's something that you don't want to just talk about publicly. You can DM me on Twitter. You can also check out the Couchbase forums. Forums.couchbase.com is a great place to go for technical questions about Couchbase, getting them answered. A lot of our engineers are there answering questions all the time. It's not just me. It's people who actually know what they're doing that are there answering questions. So definitely check that out as well. Glow boards are like Trello boards, but they can sync to a repo. So GitKraken is two things, a Git client and a Glow boards. Most people don't think of it as the Git client. Oh, interesting. So Glow boards are like Trello. They can sync to a repo. So when you create a Glow board in GitKraken, let's say you haven't synced it to a repo yet. If you create a Glow board in GitKraken, is that just local to you until you sync it to a repo? Or can that sync to other places besides GitHub? You're listening to GitKraken Hour with Calvin and Matt. It can be public, private, and there is a synced version. So maybe like GitKraken also has their own, like it only exists for GitHub for now. Okay, makes sense. Well, it is GitKraken. So example, a bucket name. Let's just do examples. Bucket name with a dash. Like travel sample, needs backticks to escape it. Travel sample. I'm trying to up my advocate game. Well, Calvin, I'll tell you what, GitKraken, they need to look at Calvin Allen as more than just an ambassador. Oh, my coffee's cold. I'm going to get some more coffee. Let's finish this issue first. I'm going to take a short break, get some coffee, and I'll be right back. Let's say what else? A JSON field name. Similarly, a JSON field name with dashes needs backticks to escape it. So we can say foobar baz. Address the field like foo-bar. Okay, convert that to an issue. And let's take a look at this full issue here. And it's in the link and nothing else like that. I don't have any assignees yet. I'm not like a project manager. I'm not saying, okay, Brent, you must do this ticket now. But if someone wants to take it, I'm happy to assign it to them so that people know that, hey, so-and-so is working on it. But we're nowhere near any sort of project management type of thing happening right now. We're just still in full bootstrap mode with this repo, just trying to get something going. And I really appreciate Brand's efforts jumping in here because he knows he has forgotten more about Link than I know. So he is the guy that I want in this project. So anything he contributes, I'm going to be super happy about it. But I am not going to be like, okay, Brent, this is your job. You must do this. That's just not how I roll. Okay, time for a short coffee break. Let me switch over to my taking a break screen. So after these messages, we'll be right back. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that little break there. I just looked around on SoundCloud for some what do you call it? Creative Commons licensed music. It kind of fit the theme, and so I really like that one because it takes the Steve Ballmer developers into like some sort of techno remix. It's a lot of fun. All right, back at it. So I created that other task based on Brant's comments. So let's jump into my email and we'll take a look at what else. I think there's one more. Take a look at that one. There it is. So this is the get the document ID when getting entities. Link to SoundCloud. Yeah, I don't have a, I mean, you can see the info on there. Switch back over here. But let's see, let me down here a little bit. Yeah, there's not a link, I don't think. But it is, we could find it. God morning developers, SoundCloud. Yeah, I don't have any sort of fancy link or anything like that. What was it? It was, I think it was God morning, right? Maybe it was good morning. We can do a quick search. Do we have to sign in and do a search? No, here we go. Yeah, here it is. So I can just, it looks like there's 2 tracks here. I'm wondering, oh, that's just the, it's the album. But here it is. There we go. There's the link. So I found it there. You know, those scenes, I have like 5, 6 different scenes for different tracks that I've picked. So maybe I can add a link to that scene as well. So you can go check it out. It's probably a good idea. I think that was future enhancement. By the way, Tim Van Monero, thanks for stopping in and saying hi. Did you enjoy that track? Is that why you want the link? Just want to add that to your own playlist? It's kind of fun. Okay, get the document ID when getting entities. Thank you. Okay, this looks to be nickel related and the way Couchbase stores the ID and metadata. Can you confirm and provide a little more information? Okay, this is one of the pieces of the nickel query puzzle. It's hard to see the effects without the other pieces, but I'm trying to break the reviews down to manageable bytes. So I really appreciate that, Brant, because I have no idea what I'm doing, and you have done this before. Let's see. Am I allowed to use every CC licensed music on stream? When Brant says it's a puzzle, I'm out. So Creative Commons license, there's different licenses for Creative Commons. First of all, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. But as far as I know, if it's Creative Commons license there's licenses for non-commercial uses, there's licenses for commercial uses, there's license for modification with commercial usages. So when I search for Creative Commons, I look for the most permissive license that I can. So I'm looking for tracks that allow you to use them for commercial purposes and allow you to modify them. Now I don't know if I necessarily consider this commercial, this endeavor here. I mean, it is being used on Twitch, so Twitch might be construed as using it for commercial purposes. And I'm not modifying it, at least not intentionally, but I still want to stick to as permissive as a license as possible. So just a quick side note here, creativecommons.org is where I do all my searching. So you can search for lots of stuff, images. I like the old portal better because you can search for images, but you can also search for video, music, so SoundCloud here, and I can search for developers on SoundCloud. If I get sued, I will tell them Matthew is a lawyer and told me. Haha, thanks for explanation. Yeah, don't do that because I'm not. But if you notice here, Calvin witness me. Anyway, so if I go through creativecommons.org, it's the deal is done now. Well, I guess that's it, guys. I'm out. I'm gonna be sued into oblivion. But if you notice, creativecommons.org automatically adds these filters to the search, so you can see that I can modify this commercially. And you can, there's other options to use commercially, to share, to listen to, things like that. I like to use the one that's most permissive as possible, just in case. And so you can see that if you search for developers, there's a few, but this is, I don't know if the one that I found is on here yet or not. So, but that's how I do it. And that's how I also look for like images for my blog posts and stuff too. Like if I'm looking for images of developers, if you notice when I search for Google, it's going to be labeled for reuse with modification, right? It's not non-commercial reuse, it's any reuse with modification. So I could take these images, I could modify them, crop them, resize them, and share them. Now you do have to give, in many cases, you have to give source. You have to put the source. So I usually put a link to the source of the image where I found it on Google here. So like this would be a pretty good one to use in like a blog post header, right? These kind of look like developers. This guy with the vest over here, Silicon Valley, am I right? You know, it's also good to just give the name and the artist when you can. Give as much information as you can and add that into the blog post. Right? Anyway, so creativecommons.org, that's a place I go to find best I can. And when you search Creative Commons, it also brings up public domain stuff too as part of that. Public domain you can use pretty much anywhere for any reason without even giving any credit to anybody. So, once again, I'm not a lawyer, so anything I'm saying is not legal advice. It's just my own dumb process. Chances are you won't get sued anyway, unless you make a ton of money somehow, and you'll just get a cease and desist. And Twitch also has a deal where if you play music, we all get sued now. Twitch has some sort of thing where if you play music that's not permitted, they will silence out the audio, all the audio, including the person talking over the music. So that's why you got to be extra careful on Twitch. So you might not get any legal trouble, but you're going to get your videos butchered if you use commercial music. Yeah, they did that to Fritz the other day. Yeah, they have, and it's almost completely automated, I think. So, that can be a real pain in the neck. Silence all audio. If explaining programming. Yeah, right. That's sort of the whole purpose. So for one, I only use it during breaks because worst case, it's just going to be a silent picture of "I'll be right back." Okay. Easy on the language there, Tim Van Monero. I know it's something you get really hyped up about, and people get understandably upset about this sort of thing because it's not like we're out here trying to pirate music or anything. We're just trying to have a good time. We're just trying to learn, have some fun. But take it easy on the language, please. All right. So anyway, let's get back to where we are. When getting the document out of Couchbase and building the entity, there is a shadow property named ID, which represents the document ID. I'm assuming it's used to help with change tracking and write-backs. I was getting errors when it tried to register the deserialized entity into the change tracking system because the ID property didn't exist. This change simply adds meta CID as an additional property on the returned JSON object, which then loads automatically into the shadow property and then gets past the NRE, which I don't know what an NRE is. I'm assuming, though I haven't gotten this far yet, that this will be important in submit changes. I predict that we will want to come back and tweak this code and the shadow property name in a subsequent PR to something other than ID. Something like __ meta ID to prevent name conflict with the actual document attributes. That makes sense as well. Yes. So I'm aware of this shadow property he's calling it is ID. Because the way Cosmos works is that the ID of a document is actually in the document itself. If you look at Couchbase, however, look at these documents. So you can see here that this is the ID, and this is the actual JSON right here. So if I edit this document, though, and this is a bad example because I just imported this, but let's just do that again. This is the ID. It's not inside the JSON. It's outside the JSON. It's metadata. So that's where Couchbase differs from a lot of other document databases. Mongo, it's _ID. It's one of the sort of magic values. Cosmos, it's ID. It's like a magic value. Couchbase sticks it in this metadata category. So it's not just the ID. There's other stuff in metadata as well. expiration is one of the most important ones, X adders, things like that. But this means that that's one of the key differences between Cosmos and Couchbase. So that's what I think he's getting at. Excellent. I want to take a look at the code, actually. Let's just see what he's actually changed. So I vaguely remember looking at this. Okay. Yes, so this is, again, in the query space. So any query that's executed is going to add this meta to it in order to get the key, which makes total sense when we're dealing with Entity Framework. It's a relatively minor change and looks good to me, and Brant knows what he's doing. So I'm going to say, looks good to me, Brant. Thanks for the explanation. Shall I add another issue to revisit the shadow property name? So I'm not sure if I should create that issue yet, whether it's worthwhile doing that or not, but I'm just going to ask him in the comments. I'm going to merge the pull request in. And also, always got to remember, just give an upvote. Give some encouragement while you're out there on the internet. When you can, upvote, do it. Even if it's something you don't necessarily agree with, if it's something that people are out there, putting themselves out there, trying to help you, just give a thumbs up. It's always nice to do. If you go to Stack Overflow, if you get to a question and maybe the answer or the question isn't exactly what you're looking for, people still were there putting in effort, putting in time. So give them a thumbs up. It's the least you can do. Give them an upvote. Same thing on Reddit. There's plenty of people that downvote like crazy on Reddit. Let's try to stem that tide and get some upvotes going so that we can encourage people to put themselves out there instead of discourage. So upvote, upvote, upvote. Okay, great. So we got through those things from Brant. That was great stuff. So thank you very much, Brant, if you're watching this now or watching it sometime later. I really appreciate your work here, moving this along. I'm sorry that these events kind of get in the way of me getting to them, reviewing them, but I'm trying to get this ball pushed forward, and you are really doing a great job of that. So thank you very much. Calvin, also appreciate your efforts in there as well. If you would like to get involved, if you understand Entity Framework or want to understand Entity Framework, especially Entity Framework Core 3, this is all kind of in its infancy right now. Everything is, including Entity Framework Core 3. Just hop on in here and take a look at what's working, what's not working, and even if you just create an issue on the board, if you don't actually do any coding, just create an issue and say, well, it looks like this doesn't work. Could you maybe add this in? That's going to help us. That's going to be incredibly helpful. If someone's out here trying it, seeing what's working, seeing what's not working, that's going to be really helpful. Okay, so it's 11:16 now. I have got time until noon. So let's look at the scavenger hunt as best we can. So let's open up Visual Studio here. And I'm going to take it off the screen for just a second because I need to change some credentials. And I don't want you to see those credentials on there because they are top secrets. They would give you access to production, and that would not be good. Okay, I think that's fine. Let's see if that works. Now, in my scavenger hunt project, there is a part of it that is not automated yet that probably needs to be automated, and it is the indexes. So I right now they're just a nickel file right here. I've just recently migrated this into Docker from just bare metal. So I'm going to go in here and run these indexes. So that's the index on this type field in Scavenger Hunt. And I've also using a primary index, which don't really like having a primary index in there, but for at least one query, I need it. And then analytics. So this is an important step as well. So over in the analytics engine, I need to create a, I don't have the travel sample in here yet. So we'll go to settings. So Couchbase ships with a bunch of sample data that you can just load in with one button click. And it comes with a bunch of data you can use. I'm actually using this as part of the scavenger hunt, but cross that bridge in a second. So I need to create a analytics data set. So analytics, when you create a data set, it's basically a shadow copy of some actual bucket of data. So you can run analytics queries on it. So I'll create that data set, and then I'll set up the link. With those two steps, I'm copying data from my operational store into my analytics shadow copy, which in a production environment would mean I'm isolating the analytics workload from the production workload. So if I have some BI professionals, some data scientists who want to go in there and go crazy with queries on the data, they can do so in analytics. And no matter how crazy their query is, it's not going to affect the users who are doing the day-to-day work with the data. Normally this would require you creating an ETL and having a separate database instance stood up, but all you have to do with Couchbase is add a separate node or two and create a data set, and away you go. I only have the one node right here. I'm just running locally, so I have all of them running on the same machine. So that's probably not a great approach in production, but for us, it's totally fine. And I've got some initialization data here. So in my scavenger hunt, I have some administrators. I define them with this one document called admin users. Maybe not the best idea, but just a list of people who I consider admins. So if they log into the system and they have these email addresses, they have administrator privileges. So we'll go ahead and execute that. So if I go over here to Scavenger Hunt, you'll see that I just have one document with admin users. Okay. Now, let's see if this will work. I'm just going to run it locally here. See if the Scavenger Hunt works. Okay, so far so good. And to log in, let's see if the Okta integration will work here locally. I'll sign in with my accounts, and it is working. Great, fantastic. So then I can go to admin. Okay. So I want to explain how Scavenger Hunt works here very briefly, and I first want to give some shout out here to some of the inspiration for this. So if any of my, I know at least one guy I know from Twilio, he does some live streaming as well. I can't remember what his username is right now, but you should check him out. But Twilio, they have also have a developer advocate organization. A good one, perhaps the best one. At least the one that everyone talks about. And they have something called Twilio Quest. And if you've ever been to a conference where Twilio is sponsoring, most likely they've had Twilio Quest set up there. It's been a while since I've seen Twilio Quest and prizes, but it's a very cool thing where it's just like, this isn't what the screen I want to look at. CLW. Yes, is that the guy who's doing, is he the Twilio DA who's doing some Twitch streaming? I think you're right about that. But if you go to Twilio Quest, and you do this usually at events, but I think you can do it anywhere. Yeah, definitely check out CLW. Tell him Matthew Grove sent you. I just saw him at KCDC this last week. But you go on here and you do these missions, and what it is, it's just different stuff you can do with Twilio to earn points. And then at events, I think it's just at events, it may be other places, but you get turn these points into prizes. So like the people with the most experience points in this case, they get prizes at the event. In the process, they learn how to use Twilio and all the cool stuff that Twilio can do. And it's a very cool thing. So I thought, just as an experiment, let's try something similar with Couchbase. Now, it's not going to be nearly as polished and cool as Twilio Quest, because Twilio Quest has been around for a while. But maybe we'll get there someday. And I'm not doing the same 8-bit theme either. That's also a really cool part of Twilio Quest. But a similar sort of thing is that you show up to this website, you type in an invite code that we make available at the event. So at KCDC, I put a little sign on the booth that said, hey, go to this website, use this code KCDC, go in there and start answering questions, earning points, and the top 2 points earners were going to win the prizes. And we gave out Commodore 64s. In fact, I can show you Oh, geez. Logged in? Oh, Twitter is really getting on my nerves here with this code generator thing. So I switched from text messaging confirmations to a code generator app, which is like, it's in Twitter, but it's like 5 levels deep in the Twitter navigation. So I got to type in the code here. Temporary login code generator. You can use any of them. I use Duo. Okay. Well, hopefully showing you this code isn't going to cause any problems on the screen. But there we go. I'm in Twitter now. Any notifications? Oh, Surly Dev is following me. Hey, thank you, Surly Dev. And thank you for the retweets there, Rob Hitchpeth. Okay, but what I want to look at is it rotates in like 60 seconds, right? So LOL, unless we're quick. I guess, I don't know. Hopefully it'll be okay. If not, I guess I just got owned. Anyway, I'm looking for media here. There's my daughter pretending to eat a giant inflatable Skyline cheese coney. Here's my kids' ribbon cutting ceremony for the driveway. That's all great. But what I wanted to show you was this right here. These two ladies absolutely dominated at KCDC on the couch-based scavenger hunt and took the 2 top spots, and we gave them Commodore 64 minis, which comes with 64 games built in, including basic programming. And so those are the prizes we gave away to the 2 top points earners. And there's Rob right there posing. He's the more attractive one, so I wanted to make sure he was in the picture. More attractive one between him and me, that's what I say. So that's what we did. We did the scavenger hunt for the very first time at KCDC, and I think it went okay. And there's lots we can do to learn from that. But I want to kind of show you how this works. So let's create a new zone here. And we'll give it an expiration date of like tomorrow. And we'll call this Twitch Zone. And just testing out scavenger hunt for Twitch. And oh, that shouldn't be HTML. This should be HTML. That's just a title. And we won't make it a public zone. We'll put an invite code here of Twitch. I'll go ahead and save that. So everything's working so far. So that's going to save a document here in Scavenger Hunt. So for one, when I logged in via Okta, it created this document for me. So it stores my login information. But here's the actual zone it's created. So the description I just put in, the expiration date, invite code, is it public, what's the name, the HTML instructions, and all that stuff is there. So now I can start putting actions on it. So there are a number of actions that I can put in there right now. One of them is multiple choice. So I'll give you a multiple choice example. Anybody got some good multiple choice questions I could ask? Let's see. Who is the top chatter in the Matthew, we'll make this strong, Matthew D. Groves Twitch chat? And then I can put in multiple choice answers. So I could put in Calvin A. Allen would be the correct answer. We could put in Surly Dev. And we can put in, who else we got? Coral R. And Brendonius. And the correct answer, of course, is Calvin Allen, so he is checked. And I could also add more answers, and I could remove them. I think I have to have at least 4 is what I decided on. So there's, I'll have to give an order number. So we'll put it the first one, and we'll give this 10 points. Through a trick answer, Matt Groves. I am not the top chatter. I'm right here. I'm 9. I hardly ever type in that chat room. Throw in a trick answer. Oh, you're saying throw in a trick answer. Got it. I talk more than you chat. Yeah, I know. I really run my mouth around here. So then I specify an order and how many points the question is worth, and I'll save it up there. Okay. So then it's not super interesting right now, but we could go here, and we have an invite code, and it was Twitch. So at the event, you would type in the code we give you, which was KCDC in this case, but ours is Twitch. Okay, now it shows up, the Twitch zone, and right now we just have the one So I'd probably have better description here, like an image and something like that, some of the rules. We just have one question so far. Who is the top chatter in the Matthew D. Groves Twitch chat? Well, I think it's probably Surly Dev. So we'll go ahead and submit that question. Oh, sorry, that's not correct. Okay. Oh, it's actually Calvin. It is correct. And I get 5 points. Not yet. That's right. So one thing you should notice is I put in a 10-point value for this question, but I answered it wrong. First of all, I answered it correctly the second time. Because I answered it incorrectly, I divided the points in half. And if I got it wrong again, it would divide it again in half. So it would be down to 2.5. Or something like that. I don't know. Something along those lines. So we can go in, we can add some more actions here. Right now I've got 3 other kinds. So we'll do fill in the blank. So let's put in, what's a good fill in the blank question? Let's see. We'll call it the fill in the blank example. Does that question validate the answer from the database? I didn't see. Yes, it does. It validates the answer from the database. And actually, I should look at the database to show you that. So here's the actual question that's stored. No, that's the zone. I don't call them questions, let's call them actions here. But here's the actual action. It's multiple choice. The answer is 1. Here's all the choices that I gave it. And here's the actual HTML question. And so you can see that the answer is the first is index number 1. So that's Calvin Allen. So if it was Surly Dev, it would be 0. If it was Coral, it would be 2. If it was Brandonius, it would be 3. But the answer is actually just 1. The answer is an array because, well, I kind of wanted to leave room for expansion, and there are other questions where an array is helpful. Let's see. Could you generate the choices from the top 4 or top 3 plus you chatters in the channel? So right now, it's very simple. Everything is just static information that I put into the questions in this system. And this is meant for events. It's not really meant for like interacting with Twitch. However, I could add one of the question types. So when we did this project early on, we first we did like a real project. It's not just me doing this. We had like a bunch of like a backlog and features that we wanted. One of the features that I wanted was like a programmable question where you could basically, it would go and find all classes that implement a certain interface, and then it would use that interface actually in C#, create a new instance of it, and do some processing, which might involve going out to the bot data, for instance, or going out to Twitter or something like that. Well, if someone comes in and gets more spammy than me, for instance, then they might not get listed in the choices. Exactly right. Exactly right. So this is not a great example of a question because the chat is changing so often, but I just wanted to use an example there. So it is not dynamic in any way, at least not yet. That may be something we want to add in the future. But let's give a good fill in the blank example here. So let's see, Calvin Allen and Matthew Groves both live. Thank you for the follow, DJ Uzi. Thanks for stopping in. Feel free to jump in anytime if you have questions. As I say at the beginning of every stream, the only stupid question is one you don't ask. So if you don't know what the heck's going on, drop a question in the chat there. Happy to talk about them. Or just tell us what you're up to. But I appreciate the follow. Okay, Calvin Allen and Matthew Groves both live in the blank metro area. And so we'll make this action number 2, give it also 10 points, and we'll fill in the blank. So Columbus is a possible answer. Stupid questions are easier to fix than stupid mistakes you make. That's another way of, I think, saying the same thing, right? I like it. But let's say we want to be accommodating. Someone might type in Columbus. Someone might type in Columbus, Ohio. Someone might type in Columbus without a comma. So other options here. We want to accommodate people who might type in slightly different things. So that's a fill in the blank question. And the way that gets stored over here is if you look at fill in the blank, you can see that now I'm actually using the array That's storing all the possible answers to the question. So any of those count. And there are no choices in this one, so that's a null field. But this action type is one of the things that I basically switch on in the application. It's like a strategy pattern sort of thing. And yes, so we can go back to our scavenger hunt, Twitch zone, and now fill in the blank shows up. And Calvin Allen and Matthew Groves both live in the Columbus, Ohio metro area. That's correct. 10 points. All right. I'm at 15 points now. I'm the top name on the leaderboard. Just me. Okay. Let's just zoom through the rest of these. So zones, actions. We'll add a SQL++. Okay. We'll come back to SQL++. Let's go to match first. So match is one that I actually didn't think of when I first started with this. This was a requirement, I guess you could say, that was asked for by one of the stakeholders. And the idea is we provide a picture, and you need to match up the picture. You need to label the items in the picture. So let's say, so an example we did at KCDC was match example. So match up these elements with the labels. And so we had an image, and I'm not going to be able to paste an image in here, but we could say A, it kind of looked like this. B and C. And the idea here, we're going to remove one of these, so we have A, B, and C. And the choice is going to be, am I doing this right? So it's going to be Couchbase Lite, Sync Gateway, and Couchbase Server. So the idea is we want to show off the full stack architecture that Couchbase can do. If you have a mobile application, you can use Couchbase Lite as an embedded database and read and write to it directly, just on its own. If you want to sync that with the backend, you can use another tool called Sync Gateway, which is like an edge server. It sits at the edge of your data center or your cloud, and it will sync data back and forth between the Couchbase Lite database and the Couchbase server when there's connectivity available. So it can still read and write to it when it's offline, can sync when it's available, and then write to Couchbase server. So we'll make this action number 3 and also 10 points. So then if I go back to the Twitch zone, match example, you can see, okay, now I have to decide, well, here's my diagram. This will be a real image in reality, but I say A. So A is probably Couchbase Lite, B is Sync Gateway, and C is Couchbase Server. So then I can submit that and see that, yes, you got it right. Okay, and one more is the SQL++. And this is my sort of original plan for this. This is why I originally called this the SQL scavenger hunt, where you'd have to write SQL queries to find bits of data in the system. And right now this is hooked up to the travel sample. So the example we did was find United Airlines. Write a SQL++ query to find the document ID of United Airlines. And we'll call this 4. And we give these higher point values because they're harder to do. But if I go over here to analytics, I'm going to select star from travel, where name like, well, let's see, where type equals airline, and name like United. What did I do wrong? Oh, got to escape the type there. That's a reserved word. Okay, so we've got United States Air Force and United Airlines. And obviously, I want United Airlines. I want the key. As I said, the key is separate. So there it is. So this is exactly what I want the user, well, name equals United Airlines. This is exactly the query that I want the scavenger hunt participant to enter. Something like this. Now, they could also do something like select value, right? Or select raw. Those are other options they could do. So we want to prepare for those. But basically, I want the user to type in any question at all, or any query at all, that's going to return results like this, or return results like this. So I'm not putting in the query I expect them to type because, queries can be so complex. People can put in extra spaces and white spacing, and trying to see if a query is equal to what someone typed in is a very hard problem to do. What's much easier to do is to compare results, especially if it's relatively simple. I can say if the results look like this or look like this, I can run them both through a JSON parsing engine and see if they are the same. There's actually I think something in Newtonsoft to do exactly this, if I remember correctly. So we'll go ahead and save that. So then if we go back here to our scavenger hunt, we'll go to Find United Airline, and the idea is we want them to type in a SQL query. And I would give a lot more hints than this in reality. In fact, I did give a lot more hints, because that's very difficult to do, especially if you've never written SQL before, you never used Couchbase before, you don't know what the shape of the data looks like, all those sorts of things. So it's important to give some good hints. But then if I go ahead and say a select star from travel where type equals airline, limit 2. So that's the incorrect answer. But if I submit that, oh my, maybe I found a bug. Okay, let's go back. What could the bug be here? Feature, yes, sweet. JD Hirsch, hey, thanks for coming in. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, this is definitely a feature, not a bug. What did I do wrong here? Well, for one, it shouldn't be throwing an exception like that. That's a problem. But this should work. You know,
Bada bing, bada boom.
Thank you for the follow, JD Hirsch. Appreciate that. Thanks for stopping in. You know, I think this might be a credentialing issue, in fact. I don't see what that would be, though. You got it. Well, it's not working. But I'm pretty sure this is... Well, what's the error message look like here? Value cannot be null.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Thank you for following. So it looks like some error is happening. And then when I'm trying to process the error... Hey, thanks for the follow. Phala3? Just starting on Twitch. Well, welcome. That's awesome. Thank you for stopping into my channel, of all places to start out. Appreciate you coming to my humble channel and saying hi. What kind of coding are you into, JD Hirsch, or are you into coding? You're just kind of curious what's going on. Been on for 2 weeks.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Oh my goodness, the followers keep coming. Millennium with the 3 instead of an E. Thank you for stopping in and saying hi. JavaScript. Okay. Yeah, JD Hirsch, I don't do a ton of JavaScript here. However, I do sometimes. This application I'm working on has a little bit of JavaScript, and we deal with a lot of JSON in this channel. A lot of data stored as JSON, which is part of JavaScript. So definitely hope you find this interesting. Phala, looking for a decent channel for coding. Well, I've got good news for you, because even if you don't like my channel, which is totally fair, I am on a team of live coders here on Twitch called the Live Coders. And so someone on this team is going to be interesting to you, hopefully. Livecoders.net. Do we actually have a website like that? Doesn't seem to be coming up. Yeah, Awesome Developer Stream is another place you can go. These are places I plug at the beginning of every show. Hey, John, thanks for stopping in. Have a good lunch. My lunch is coming up here shortly, too. Doing some .NET Core. Okay, awesome. Phala3, please tell me if I'm saying it right. This application here is .NET Core. I do a lot of .NET Core. Whenever I'm coding, it's going to be .NET Core in this channel, C# and .NET Core. Do you have Streamlabs set up for bang helpers for those, Matt? I do not have any sort of bang helper set up on Streamlabs. Is that something that Streamlabs can do out of the box? That's pretty cool. We'll have to look into that. You're now a collaborator on the Awesome Developers Streams GitHub project. Yeah, I think I do have their bot join. Pretty sure I do. So seeing as you were so helpful earlier, I'll keep your entry on there. I appreciate that, Surly Dev. I plug it every day, or every time I stream, and I always do a search for data on the Awesome Developer Streams to see who else is doing data stuff. It's, almost everyone interacts with data in some capacity, but I focus I focus a lot on databases, so there's a few others there. You're responsible for the header letters. Oh, okay. These right here. You know what? I noticed that the other day. I said, hey, look, someone's added some alphabetical sorting. So thank you for that, Surly Dev. That's really been helpful. That helps to break it up a little bit, do a little more searching. Appreciate that. Thank you. I usually do a Control F on here and search for individual topics. So, for instance, whoever mentioned JavaScript earlier, that was, who was that? That was JD Hirsch. If you're interested in JavaScript, there's a bunch of people who are doing JavaScript on here. Have I looked into GraphQL? So GraphQL is, I guess you could consider that database, but it's kind of a layer that goes over your data, or its interface goes with something else. I've not done much GraphQL myself, so it's not a topic I'm terribly interested in. You know, maybe someday, if there's enough interest, we can try hooking up GraphQL to Couchbase, for instance, to see how challenging that is. But no, I've not done much with GraphQL. I do know there's always like a kerfuffle on Twitter about GraphQL versus REST and all that kind of stuff, and miss me with that, because I'm not interested in arguing over what's better. I'm just interested in how it works and how I can use it to do some cool stuff. And I'm sure almost any tool out there that has any sort of usage can do some cool stuff. So let's see if anyone's interested in GraphQL. I don't see anybody. Oh yeah, here's one. Go Maestro Go. He's one we see every once in a while. He's doing some stuff with data in GraphQL. Siva is also doing some GraphQL stuff. So there's a couple people who are doing GraphQL. All right. Anyway, so if you're interested in live coding, you've come to the right place. Go check out the team and the awesome developer streams as well. It's a spec too, not a framework or library. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is a spec. There's lots of tools that can implement GraphQL, of course. But yeah, a lot of people seem to be into it. I'm not one of those people, at least not yet. But I am not going to give it a hard time either, because I don't know enough about it to give it a hard time. All right, so let's take a look at the code here and see. We're in analytics service, it looks like. I use whatever works well for MS. Oh, for me, okay. Because MS was like milliseconds? Microsoft? Me, yes. It's absolutely a pretty good attitude to have. Although I'd say, I wouldn't necessarily use the word me. I'd say my team, whatever works best for my team. Take them into account as well. But yeah, okay. So what do we got here? We could just do some. Let's just do debugging here and see what the situation is. We'll just see where the error is. It looks like there's an error in my error handling, which that's always the worst, right? I'm surprised this didn't come up during the event last week. Actually, kind of fortunate that it didn't. So we'll just do a really simple one. Okay, so it was not success. So what this does is it goes through and, oh, okay, so no connection could be made. This is what I figured. It was something to do with, what you call it? Yeah, errors is null. So that's definitely where the problem is here. Okay, so why is the connection being refused? It's entirely possible that I didn't open the right ports. Oops. For analytics. So 8095 through 8096. 8094. So what I think I need to know now is Couchbase Analytics, Couchbase port numbers, firewall, that sort of thing. Yes. So what port numbers? Analytics is 8095. Well, I have that open, I think. Go back to, oh, you know what? I don't have that open. That's the problem. Just jumped on my lunch back to coding myself. Have a great one. Yeah, thanks for stopping in, JD Hirsch. Hope you can join us again sometime. Let us know let us know what you're doing with GraphQL. Maybe you're doing some of your own streaming. We can hop on that, do a quick raid or something to look at some GraphQL. Thanks for stopping in. So here's the mistake that I made. When I created this Docker image earlier today, I opened ports 8091 through 8094. Analytics needs 8095. So it's being blocked. Did your first stream the other day? Cool. All right, man. Have a good one. So the port is not available. That's why it's failing. That's probably, I mean, I could handle that error better, but I mean, that's not, I don't want to dock people points for my mistake in not opening a port. So I want to analytics response. So let's take a look at this. Yeah, so I might need what in the world? Someone calling me? Someone's calling me on my Google Voice number, which makes my computer ring. So I pretty much know that whenever someone calls my Google Voice number, it's going to be spam. So I can safely ignore that. Although it might be fun to bring them on the live stream. But no. So if I wanted to deal with this situation, if I forget to do this in the future, then I would have to change the analytics response to have take the call and troll them. Yeah, it's probably a robocall. You know, I get a lot of those where it's just, I don't know, it's some message in like Chinese, I guess. I don't know why I'm getting calls from Chinese language calls. You get phone calls asking about your recent car accidents. Yeah, I get a lot of calls asking about pretending to be card services, things like that. Which one? I have so many car accidents, I can't keep track of them all. That's great. But in this situation, I want to return a response letting the user know that something went wrong, but I don't want that to count as a response for point purposes. You kept one guy on the phone for 12 minutes the other day. Oh boy, that's fantastic. It seems like something you would do, Surly Dev, really mess with somebody. So I'm not going to worry about that situation right now, where the port number's not open. You know, I think I've seen that guy, Surly Dev, Kit Boga. I think I've seen some of his recordings on YouTube. Although maybe it's a different guy. So there's this guy on YouTube, and those people that call and they're like, "Oh, we're from Microsoft. We noticed there's a virus on your computer. Please give us full access to fix it." That sort of thing. He messes with those guys somehow. He's got some sort of counter software that can actually give him access to their desktop. So he will, while they're talking, he will copy their files and delete their files and mess with them, and put new files in their desktop and things like that. It's the language is not safe for work, because when the call center people find out, they get real mad. But anyway, I don't know if it's the same guy or not, but yeah, there's all kinds of people out there who are messing with these scammers, and I feel bad for the call center people. I don't if they're just doing their job, they're legit. I don't want to mess with them. But yeah, the people who call up and pretend to be Microsoft, or they pretend to be card services or whatever, those get me real mad. So they get what they deserve, if you ask me. So what I need to do, and I was kind of hoping that someone from Docker, someone who knows Docker, would have already chimed in and give me the answer, is how do I open a port on an image that I've already started? Because I don't want to have to restart the image and lose all my data and stuff that's in there. In production, I would, that'd be fine, no big deal. But in my local machine, I don't know how to do that. So Docker open port on running container. Well, I'm not the only one. Maybe I've actually even asked about this before. How to expose ports on running container. This was asked in 2015, so this is a little bit stale, but so I don't know if that's going to give me the right answer or not. Your better bet will be simply to create new containers. I don't want to do that because I'm storing state in there right now. You cannot do this via Docker, but you can access the container's unexposed port from the host machine. Yeah, I'm aware of that. So the only time you can expose ports is when you do a Docker run. I can't do it on Docker start. You cannot expose a new port on an existing container. You can start a new container in the same Docker network and get it to forward traffic to... Yeah, I got that. Hey, Surly Dev, thanks for stopping by. I got to go myself here soon, too. I got maybe 5 minutes or so until lunchtime. So I'm just trying to see if I can get this to work before I go. Yeah, relationship stuff, that's, you know, gotta take care of your loved ones. Yeah. Have a good one, Surly Dev. Thanks for stopping in. So I don't think there's an easy way to do this, unfortunately. How do you map a port on a running container? From Germany for a couple weeks. She wants to go to Tesco. Oh, okay. Well, have a good time at Tesco. Tesco, by the way, Couchbase customer. So you're going to be using Couchbase when you go to Tesco. You don't even know it. How do you map a port on a running container? Any progress? You can't change a port mapping on a running container. You can stop the container and restart using the -p host container flag or using the correct detective in the Docker Compose file. I'm not using Docker Compose for this. -p host container. It's not a legitimate command. You're right. You'd run the Docker run again. Stop. Run. Oh, there's a fire truck right past my house. I don't know if you can hear that. Docker container run. Docker container? Is that a command? Docker container? It is. Interesting. Okay. Specify the image name correctly. I'm so terrible at Docker. I know enough to get by with Docker. But, yeah, I don't know how to do this specific thing. I just don't want to have to... I've been trying to figure out how to create a full .NET FX / SQL Server / IIS container. What is .NET FX? Is that something... .NET Framework, okay. Oh, so like .NET, like not .NET Core, but .NET, straight up? I don't know if you can do that in Docker. You'd need like a Windows base image, I would expect. I don't know if that exists. MS has containers. Do they? Like they're running Windows? Or .NET? That's pretty cool. It'd have to be like a, what, like a Windows server, like micro or something. I think I remember hearing vaguely about that. I'm doing all .NET Core and stuff, so I think it just runs Linux containers, which are everywhere. .NET Framework ASP.NET. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'd be curious to know what the base image is. .NET Framework runtime. I thought you could see the actual like Docker file somewhere in here. They don't have a consolidated image with the recs I need. Well, I mean, generally speaking, you probably don't want to run all of those in the same container, like in production, right? That sounds like a development scenario. So probably Docker Compose is what you're looking for. Yeah, I assumed it wasn't for prod. You could probably do something like that with Docker Compose. I'm sure someone's got one out there somewhere. Or Kubernetes, some sort of Kubernetes. Compose is kind of like Docker's version of Kubernetes a little bit. That's my understanding. Or I'm not a Docker expert. Windows Server Core. Yeah, so maybe that's what you're looking for. There's a Docker file for it. From Windows Server Core. Yeah, interesting. That's pretty cool. So I don't know. I guess we could just call it a day here without solving the problem. I know that kind of stinks. I couldn't figure out how to change the port mapping on an existing Docker image. It may not be possible. I may have to just do it all over again, which is kind of boring. So I'm not gonna try that here. I could probably play around with it a little bit, see if I could get something to work. But it's lunchtime, so I'm going to take a break, end the stream right here. I want to thank everyone for joining, saying hi, stopping in. What do we got here? We've got DJ Uzi, thanks for the follow. JD Hirsch, thanks for the follow. Failure 3, thank you for the follow. Millennium, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you all stopping in, saying hi. We're going to try a raid here, I think. So let's see who's on live curve. Well, maybe we'll raid Lana Lux. She's doing some game development. That looks kind of interesting. Oh, geez. I've seen this ad so many times. So we'll maybe do a raid on Lana Lux. That'll be fun. She's the only one else streaming right now on this team. Thank you, Calvin, Surly Dev, for the great chat. And everyone else for jumping in with the chat. John Calloway as well. Thank you, everybody. So we're going to do a raid on Lana Lux here. I don't know much about raids other than, like, just how to do them. So I'm going to shut everything down here. Raid Lana Lux. So that's it for today. Thank you very much, everybody. If you're joining the raid, we'll see you over there for a little while before I sign off. And otherwise, I want you all to have a good day. I'll be back streaming again on Thursday. That'll be 1:30, I believe, Eastern U.S. time. So 1:30. We'll pick up where we left off. Maybe do some more scavenger hunt stuff. Maybe look at Entity Framework. All that kind of fun stuff. We'll keep it going. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good one.
I love it. Moons, welcome.